Flame Shoder. I'm a master certified coach and owner of a personal development coaching practice called Coach Flame.
And I'm Jeanne Ivy, a creative director, artist, and owner of the creative consultancy Ivy Magic. And together, Flame and I are
the Spark Sisters.
In the process of working with Flame as my coach, we discovered that we had complementary and kindred ideas about how to help others find their spark and own their unique place in the world. Eventually, we started talking about how we might share these ideas with others, tapping into the natural riffing style that happened whenever we talked.
And that's a glimpse into how the Spark Sisters podcast began. We have seen and felt the magic of learning to be authentic in our own lives. And that is at the heart of this podcast. We wanted to share the way that we did it, not so that you would do it our way, but because sometimes when you hear someone else say their way, then you discover your own. We want you to live from your authentic spark. Hello, and welcome back to the Spark Sisters podcast. Jeanne and I just got inspired to talk about this new trend that we're seeing on social media about quiet quitting and how it relates to authenticity. So, Jeanne, I know you have some thoughts on this. What is quiet quitting and how are you seeing it from your vantage point?
So, quiet quitting, as far as I can tell, and there's a lot of discussion right now about was that the best term to use or not. So the premise is basically people saying, hey, I'm going to stick to my job responsibilities and all this extra stuff that's outside my 40 to 50 hours a week. No, thank you. Like I'm drawing some boundaries and I am getting paid for my job responsibilities. And that's what I'm going to do. And that's what I'm going to stick to. And this always on business, I'm just quitting that. For me, a way I've been looking at quiet quitting is very similar to how I've looked at the corporate trend of resiliency training. That oftentimes resiliency is touted in corporate environments as a way to sort of put the responsibility on the employees rather than looking at what systems and management may be broken that's causing people to need to be resilient. It's the thing that I repeat sometimes to people. Instead of rolling with the punches, maybe you should be asking why you're getting punched in the first place.
Right.
And so I see the same thing with quiet quitting is that employees are sort of taking it on themselves to fix a problem that might actually be systemic. That having a lack of focus and prioritization, having a culture where managers feel like they have to do extra things, which means their people have to do extra things in order to have career growth, that maybe some of that is broken. And instead of fixing that, employees are taking it upon themselves to draw some boundaries, which I think they should do anyways. But I think that's only part of the solution of how do we fix burnout? How do we fix a lack of clarity? How do we fix cultures that might pay lip service to bringing your whole self to work, but really don't foster authenticity? So that's my soapbox about the whole thing. Flame, what are your thoughts? How do you view quiet quitting and how it relates to helping or hindering authenticity?
Well, first of all, I want to say that I love your perspective that it's sort of differentiating the employee from the culture and the employee sort of taking back some autonomy. And I also really relate with what you said that this is a new term. Obviously, it doesn't have a lot of meaning in and of itself. It's a cute, trendy phrase. But I think depending on your audience, who you're actually speaking to in the moment, it brings up different mental images, right? So if you're talking to a newly single parent, it'll have a slightly different connotation than if you're talking to, like me, I'm a recovering perfectionist, right? So there are some things that it might be actually good for me to quit. If I were to take an assessment of my role and look at where am I overworking and it's underappreciated, not being asked for, certainly not compensated, then I might just quit that. And I know there's a lot of concern on the part of employers that we're going to lose our productivity, but I think that speaks to a much larger conversation about why is productivity the marker for success? And is it the best marker for success? And how does it fit with the generation of workers that's proliferating right now? I mean, obviously, we are at a time when baby boomers are retiring in droves. A lot of them are already retired. And the new generations are coming up and they feel differently about work. So quiet quitting is sort of the part of this big recalibration process we've been in since COVID, right? Including the Great Resignation and things along that line. So I guess I see it that quiet quitting could actually be a great way for everybody to take a moment to pause and say, all this energy that I'm spending, which part of it is worth it? And which part of it is simply habitual? And it's good for me to be mindful about it and choose how to use my energy in a different way.
That's really interesting. I think that this idea of productivity that you bring up as well, there's another sort of piece to the quiet quitting that has gotten me a little riled up.
I love it when you get riled up.
And that is we're treating this as a binary, that you're quiet quitting or you're being productive. You're being productive or you're being lazy. I don't see quiet quitting as laziness at all. I see it as raising your hand and saying, I really can only be productive and effective in the hours from 8 to 5 or, whatever the parameters are. If you want me to work beyond that, my productivity is actually going to suffer. And so let's relook at things here. This is not about me being lazy if I'm quiet quitting. This is me trying to actually be more effective and not have my productivity be leached out of me because I'm working insane hours, because I am not getting enough sleep, because I am sitting at my desk and working through lunch. It is saying, no, productivity matters to me, but I've got to preserve that. I've got to protect that. And productivity does not equal number of hours.
As you're talking about that, an image came up in my mind of a factory worker in front of an assembly line. And that this idea that we work a shift, basically.
Yep.
And you're going to show up at 8, like you said, and you end work at 5. And in between, you get a 30-minute lunch break and 2 15-minute breaks. That is a model related to productivity in that type of environment. And we've transferred it to the kind of work that is more common today, where it's on computers, it's relationally bounded. It's largely about communicating and then implementing whatever comes out of the communication, right? That's a totally different model for work. And yet we do still expect people to be like factory workers or computers or machines where you just power it on at the beginning of the day and it produces until the end of the day when you power it down.
Right.
And that is not authentic to how human beings actually operate in our brain cycles and our energetic cycle throughout the day.
Talk more about that.
So the Energy Project is a company that has studied how the most high-performing athletes achieved that elite status. And then they took what they learned and transferred it to the business world. And one of their big takeaways was that the most high performing athletes rest a lot because they know that their bodies and their game stance need time to be away from the game to rejuvenate. And then they can go back and achieve peak performance because their muscles are stronger and they're ready to focus at that level. We don't ask that of our workers in the modern work world. It's rare that you would find a company that says it's okay to go and have a nap under your desk.
Right.
At 1 o'clock in the afternoon. But in all honesty, that is how human beings are formulated, that we wake up in the morning. We generally have more energy in the morning. You can see all kinds of studies or anecdotes that point to do the most important thing right away, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then your energy wanes and your focus wanes and frankly, your productivity wanes. And if we were smart, we would allow that. We would say, aha, this is the time to do something that is more energizing, more restorative. And then we can come back to whatever needs our most creative, focused attention. But even that, after about 45 minutes or an hour, it's going to wane and then we can come back. But we just don't rest enough. And that's part of what I hear people saying is that they're advocating for more rest. And that really does fit with how human beings are crafted.
Yeah. That's interesting. Sort of a different way of looking at this too. You brought up the factory assembly line worker. There's this woman, I think her name is Anna Helen Peterson. I'll have to look it up and put it in show notes. But she's a researcher and a journalist, and she had a Twitter thread a few months ago where she was talking about that today's knowledge workers have forgotten that they're labor, that they have been convinced that their jobs should be passions, should be part of how they fulfill their purpose. And if you position it like that rather than labor, then, well, I guess it's okay if I'm working all these extra hours and not resting because it's in the service of like my calling or my passion. And that some of the shifts that we're seeing in terms of employee engagement and sort of trends is people sort of waking up to, oh yeah, I'm being paid to be here. I'm labor. I might not be in a factory, but I'm still labor. And so asking me to go above and beyond a clock in, clock out is not healthy for me. So, back to your idea of like, yes, you need breaks, you need rests.
Don't you think that leads to a kind of recalibration for people that you may be working at a company that really isn't a good fit for you? But until you start to take a look at this idea of quiet quitting and what you would have to quietly quit in order to genuinely feel good at the end of the day, it may authentically be a mismatch.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, for sure. And, I've been reflecting on this coming up on almost 2 years since I launched my consultancy and thinking about areas where I met my goals and where I haven't. But one of the areas where I have met my goals is I had this goal of I need to work in a way that's productive and healthy. And I hadn't been able to find an employer that I really felt was a good match for my values in that way, which is not to say bad company or good company, just a misalignment. Again, I wanted to be productive and efficient, and I was feeling like I wasn't able to be in the environments that I was in. And so it's been interesting to see that I can now structure my days in a way, like you were saying, that I can pick the times when I am going to be the most focused and productive. I can take better rest. I can fuel myself better. I can get exercise, and which is often the thing that, you cut first when you feel like you can't be productive. It's like, well, I'm not going to exercise. So finding those rhythms that allow me to be productive. And for some people, they may have to do that. They may have to do their own thing in order to find that sort of cultural fit.
I really appreciate what you're saying. I'm remembering that I have several clients right now who are our age, and they're in one of these in-between gaps. The other thing that happens when baby boomers retire is now they're becoming elderly and their adult children need to care for them.
Yes.
And so these people have children of their own and they need to care for their elderly parents, and they're balancing that with a career. And like you're talking about, those rhythms may include caring for the others in your life, picking up your kids from school, taking your parents to a doctor's appointment. And especially when we're talking about intellectual work, which is a little more flexible, and we do need to be mentally sharp in order to do it. Clearing those things off our plate in a conscious, mindful way, taking care of that business makes it so that we can come back to the computer or to the meeting and really be present.
Yep.
Now, you used a word earlier that I think is pivotal in this conversation, which is healthier. You're making choices that are healthier. Let's talk for a minute about the relationship between being authentic and being healthy.
Ooh.
Right?
Yeah. Yes. Yep.
What is the relationship there? What's the connection? Are they the same?
I wonder if acting in healthy ways, physically, emotionally, psychologically, healthy ways, enables you to be more authentic.
Right. It's like, I would almost say the outcome of being healthy is that there's more energy to do the things that are authentic, whether that's a creativity or being calm and centered for your kids or taking on a dream that's yours to do.
Yes. Yep. Well, and one of the aspects of being healthy is, going back to this conversation of being rested enough. And when you're not rested, I think we have a tendency to be more reactive and less authentic, that we're reacting to situations rather than acting out of our authentic self.
Absolutely. It's like the situations are running us rather than us.
Yes. Well said. And so when you're not properly rested or fueled, the situations run you or are more likely to. That's a connection that I see. What about you?
Health seems like the underpinning of authenticity, like you said. If you don't have it, then I think our authenticity, our authentic voice, our authentic thinking is much harder to reach because it's clouded over with doubt and worry and struggle and strife and exhaustion, which is where we circle back to quiet quitting. So I see them as sort of a polarity to manage, I guess. Like maybe health and authenticity are ends of a polarity where you need both. And making choices for one empowers the other, and it begins an upward spiral where at the end of your days, you're pretty clear you've lived a good life. And that's what you came here to do.
Right.
With as much ease as you could.
Yes. Right. Sidebar.
Yeah.
This is something I've been thinking about off and on since we wrapped our first season. Authenticity absolutely unlocks doors, unlocks satisfaction. There are so many benefits to living more authentically. That said, I want to be clear that it's not a formula, and that it's a lifelong practice. It's not like check off all of these things on the list and then you'll be authentic and everything will be perfect. Yeah, it's a journey. to being more authentic. And the reason the sidebar came up was what you had just said. Like when you get to the end of it, saying, yeah, I did the best that I could. And I lived a good, authentic life. And that as a practice, authenticity is not just about how we show up externally. It's about also being authentic with ourselves.
That internal alignment that you're pointing to is so pivotal in this conversation. And that's the big shift that I see at the heart of what we're talking about, because we're not letting the companies dictate our work behavior. We're letting our own internal compass dictate our work behavior. We're saying, here's what I'm available to give. If it's a good fit, great. And if it's not, that's good information. And maybe I need to move on, or I need to find some other way to support my family or make a different choice.
Right.
And that is, to your point, a discernment process that happens in the best case scenario often.
Yes.
Maybe
right.
not every day. That might be a little bit too much to ask, but certainly quarterly, where we're looking at, is this working for me? What isn't working? How can I shore up what's not working? How can I let go of what's not working? How can I focus my energy on what I actually have control over instead of what I think I need to do?
Right.
Because let's face it, doing work is complex.
Yes.
In this environment, right? There are
yes.
always lots of stakeholders, lots of moving parts, lots of conflicting priorities. That's normal and natural. So I think part of the rebellion, maybe, of this whole movement is saying, I'm not going to feed into the overwork. I'm going to stay in my lane and do what I know needs to be done.
Yes. Right.
And in the end, it'll probably be enough.
Yeah. Right. And as you say, yes, there are always going to be conflicting priorities. There's always going to be lots of balls in the air. I do think that the systems in place right now still could be narrowed, that there still could be more focus, and that some of the issues that come up is because organizations have sort of forgotten what they're actually in business to do. And that there's, a lot of empire building and people having individual goals, career goals that may or may not align with what the company is really in business to do. And that also then circles back to this whole idea of authenticity being a practice that is as internal as it is external. It is asking ourselves the question, I think I really want this state of being, this thing, this person. But is that what I really want? Or is that what I have limited myself to saying that's the only way I can achieve the thing that I really want?
Yes. Driven behavior.
Yes.
Is what I associate with your idea of empire building. Just love that. And the antidote to driven behavior, which is a sort of mindless, habitual hustle, the antidote to that is clarity about what is mine to do, what is not.
Yes. Yep.
Focusing on what matters most. And that produces a kind of ease, a kind of flow. Yes. What I like to refer to as the wink and a smile kind of like, I know what you're doing. You know what I'm doing. We feel like we're in sync here. It's like a state of grace. And frankly, I think people crave that at work. They want the kinds of teams where you feel really connected. It feels like it's all on purpose. And when we start with clarity and focus, it's easier to achieve that. Yes. But when we start with driven behavior, then it is more just more, me, running away from scarcity. And that never works. It just produces more work, more effort.
That was brilliant. I just don't want to say anything for just a few seconds because I just want us to sit with that.
It's big.
It's huge.
And especially in American corporate culture, driven behavior is valued.
Yes. Yep.
Lauded, applauded, perpetuated because it's, quote, productive and it produces dollars.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. You're kind of in touch with the younger generations in a different way than I am. How is that impacting this movement?
Well, I think that is definitely a developing story. I've been going on some regular walks with a Gen Zer that I'm close with and seeing them enter the workforce and hating it. And they're not lazy, but this idea that so many of us grew up with of you just have to suffer through it. It doesn't matter if what you're doing is valuable or not. And they're saying, no, I'm opting out of that. And not in a meaning like everything has to have some big purpose, but also like doing stuff that really is busy work and not moving anything forward. And so while I have seen our generation and previous generations saying, well, this is just the way that it is. And then coming to the realization sort of in midlife, maybe, where we say, wait a minute, this is it? This is all there is? Like maybe I need to make a change. They're making the change now, or they're wanting to make the change now. They're not like, no, we're not going to like put ourselves on a shelf somewhere and wait 20, 25 years to have the realization that what's going on here is not okay. Now, of course, it's one of those things, and I think this is what they're wrestling with, is having this realization, but not having the power yet to sort of turn the ship around.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what's going to be interesting. I think that this is not an isolated individual. Like I think there are many people of that generation that are saying, wait, what?
And it rubs off through the generations to
yes.
the people that it resonates with. And it's really becoming a grassroots movement, for lack of a better word. And I want to circle back to the word that I just realized is probably at the heart of this whole thing, which is lazy.
Yes.
Yep. Isn't that the judgment?
Yes. Yep.
That the people who are afraid of what this kind of mindfulness would do to their business, what they want to say is, oh, you're just being lazy.
Lazy. Right. And that's not it at all.
I fundamentally don't believe that people are lazy.
I think you're right, but I want you to say more about that.
Well, and I suppose this is where coaches come from, right? That we believe that people are capable and whole and resourceful. So if people aren't doing something, it's because it conflicts with their values somehow, or they're at odds with themselves about it, or they're having an inner dialogue with themselves, like I'm not good enough, or I don't know how to do this. And it gets them into a freeze or flight state that looks, quote unquote, lazy to an outsider. But lazy is a judgment about someone's behavior. It really is not an accurate assessment of anything empirical.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, I think there's this sort of cultural stereotype of, I don't know what it is now, but it feels like there was at one time, like the beach bum, the person that just hangs out in their parents' basement and plays video games. Like that's,
yeah, every generation has a
right. That there's not, I'm not sure that anyone actually wants that people will do that as a coping mechanism. But yeah, that's not, I don't think that's really anyone's goal to live like that.
And if it's not a coping mechanism, it's that they're truly committed to something else, some completely different result.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah.
They're committed to healthier relationships, or they're committed to creativity or something other than productivity.
Right.
Which is the break we're seeing here.
Yep. Yes. Yeah. My my comment about it being a coping mechanism is very much my Enneagram 9 coming out.
Say more about that, my friend.
I feel that the environment that I'm in or the work I'm doing is out of alignment. It's not in harmony. There's no peace here. And so I just have to remove myself from the situation and do nothing. Doing nothing after a long period of doing too much. A little doing nothing is great. But my goal is not to sit around and do nothing. And oftentimes I don't enjoy doing nothing. It's just like it's the freeze.
Mm-hmm.
Flight, fight, or freeze. Like I'm freezing because I don't know what else to do.
Yeah. And by the way, that's not what we mean when we talk about quiet quitting. We're not talking about doing nothing.
That's right.
We're talking about choosing with awareness what to do and not do. And that's a very different, that can actually be a sign of tremendous growth.
Agreed.
Because for me, as an Enneagram type 1, a perfectionist, I could be the kind of person who I always want to run 3 more rounds of edits on the copy.
Yep.
And give every slide another look. And that doesn't often contribute a whole lot more to the outcome. Yes, it might save us a spelling mistake here and there, but it's a lot of work for very little payoff. So quietly quitting that kind of behavior could actually make my team feel more relaxed and more capable. And they feel like they get to show up a little more because I quit my instincts.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I'm suddenly becoming lazy.
Right.
It's actually a move towards authenticity, a move towards allowing for mistakes like human beings make sometimes, which is big for a type 1. We're not good at that naturally.
Yeah. And I'm not sure which preposition I mean to use. Speaking of perfectionism, sometimes I think it's wanting to have things dialed in still might be a good goal, but do they have to be dialed in this second? If I've been working for 10 hours straight, maybe that is not the time to get things dialed in because I'm still going to end up missing stuff because I'm tired. Maybe it really is good for me to walk away and the next day, or depending on what it is the next week, take a look with fresh eyes. Maybe that's the time to get things dialed in. But having to have things dialed in every single minute of every day is not sustainable.
No, and you can see how that's a clear path to burnout.
Yes. You know, coming back to, I think what I was trying, or one of the things I was trying to get at earlier about employees sort of taking things into their own hands. I think one of the reasons they've had to do that is because they're not seeing healthy behaviors being role modeled from their leaders. And the thing is, I've worked in plenty of environments where you all get in a room, you have an all hands sort of situation, whether it's a big or a small group. And you listen to, speakers come in and talk about the importance of health and nutrition and breaks and rest. And they say all the right things. And so, when the leadership of an organization is not role modeling those healthy behaviors, then yeah, employees have to take it upon themselves to go, all right, well, there might be some consequences of me doing this, but I'm not killing myself anymore. I am not going to let my own productivity suffer because my leaders are expecting me to work in an unsustainable way.
Yes. And I see that as being different from, let's say there's a initiative that has a deadline and a manager or someone actively says to the team, I need you guys to stay late this week. I need this to be done by this date because it has these business outcomes attached to it.
Yes.
And everybody rallies and focuses. And for a limited time, we do go above and beyond.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. I completely agree with that. An issue that I've seen, and this is also getting back to that prioritization and that focus, is when that becomes the norm rather than the exception. When it's all the time, well, we got to rally for this. And then 2 weeks later, well, we have to rally for this. It's like, we can't, the rallying can't happen all the time. Like it's, if everything's important, nothing is.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a dear friend whose family owns a home improvement store. And he would say, there's just no such thing as life or death flooring.
Well, right.
And that's kind of it. The customer will always call and need their flooring done by Thanksgiving because that's when their family's coming to visit. But that's not really on us to fix. That's just your wish. So those kinds of boundaries can be very empowering. And yes, that does lower our productivity potentially, but it creates a balance between the needs of the company and the needs of the real live people who are making the company go.
Right. For sure. Yeah.
So what would be your final words about this?
Well, I'm still not sure. I actually have to think a little bit more about how authenticity plays into all of this. But what I think is very interesting about this topic, and what I think we keep coming back around to, is our notion of productivity needs to be reexamined. That what are the things that we do that might on the surface look like productivity, but is actually having a negative impact overall on our productivity. And that I think the movement of quiet quitting is shining a light on that. And I think people have tried before, but I don't think it has become as clear as it is now that we are actually harming our productivity with our obsession with productivity.
Oh, the irony.
Yes. What about you? What are your final thoughts?
Quiet quitting seems like another piece of the puzzle as we redefine work. Work that is balancing the needs of the company with the needs of the individual. Work that is intellectual labor and seems like it's not that taxing on people, but in fact does ask a lot. If your brain is the organ that uses the most calories every day, then sitting at your computer and thinking about things is a big deal. So when we do it mindfully, when we quietly quit mindfully, we are actually making space for greater authenticity and making work potentially a more satisfying and sustainable endeavor. But it will be different than it was 50 years ago.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Which reminds me of a Harry Styles song.
Do tell.
No, just that song of his where there's that line, it's not the same as it was. It's not going to be.
And that's always going to kick up worry for people.
Yes,
especially the people in power or the people who traditionally made the decisions. They're going to have something to say about that.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean it's bad or wrong. And it doesn't mean it's totally right either. I can see how quiet quitting could be a euphemism for phoning it in or being disengaged at work. And that's not what we're advocating for.
No, not at all.
But it will be different. It is not the same.
Yep.
And that's okay.
That's okay.
That's us growing up.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, Flame, such a good conversation.
Thank you for following this inspiration. I've enjoyed this immensely. And listeners, we hope you have too. We look forward to many more episodes of the Spark Sisters podcast, and we hope you listen again soon.
Thanks, Flame.
Thanks, Jeannie. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Spark Sisters.
Today's episode included editing and original music from Podcast Edition. You can find them at podcastedition.com. If you'd like to learn more about this series or connect with us, visit sparksisterspodcast.com.